Welcome to the barn where we party hard but hustle harder. In today's episode, we're going to go over 5 more ways you can grow on YouTube in 2022. You guys want to stay till the end for a super special bonus tip that I figured out entirely for myself, and whoa, that tip is the biggest game changer of them all. Number 1, get rid of your intro, especially if it's a branded intro. In the last 2 weeks of posting, I noticed something in common with all my videos. In the first few seconds of the video, the audience retention was declining rapidly, especially during the branded intro. Think about it in real essence. Your intro provides no value whatsoever to your audience. Yes, it may look cool, but on a platform with over 1 billion videos being watched daily, there is cutthroat competition. Therefore, you want to address your user's problem as quickly as possible, or in less than a second, they will swipe right, showing the YouTube algorithm your content is boring, thus barring your video. If you really must, you can show your logo, but avoid wasting time to get into the meat and juice of your content. Furthermore, leave all the fluff introducing your channel and what your video is about for too long. Everyone read the thumbnail and title before clicking on your video. Yes, it's an extremely complicated thing to nail down, but as soon as you implement this, you will see your retention go through the roof. Number 2, call to actions, or CTA for short. I know I touched on this slightly on my first YouTube tips video, but I felt like I wanted to dive a bit into the specifics on how to implement this tip in more detail. The 6 calls to action you want in your video are: Number 1, the call to action to get someone to stay till the end of the video. A study done on over 200 pairs of YouTube videos where the 2 exact same videos were released, with the only difference being in one of the videos the audience was given an incentive to stay till the end. The study showed that when someone is told to stay till the end, the audience retention was over 60%. Yeah, you heard that right, 60% more. The way to achieve this successfully is either through a giveaway or mentioning a bonus tip that makes the rest of the tips easier to execute. This creates a subconscious payoff to be created in the mind of the viewer, almost guaranteeing they stay till the end. Number 2, you want to tell your viewer to subscribe and push the bell notification buttons. To execute this properly, you want to mention this towards the end of your video, as the viewer has made it deep into your video, which means they have already been satisfied with your content thusly, and therefore are more likely to want more of your content. To perfectly execute this call to action, make a reference to a future video, which will subconsciously create FOMO, the fear of missing out on that video in the viewer's mind, making them more likely to hit the 2 magical buttons. Number 3, make reference to a previous video. People always talk about the watch time on YouTube, but there is arguably a more important metric, which is the session time. You see, what YouTube wants from us creators is to keep people on the platform as long as possible. That way, they can show more ads and therefore generate more revenue. So, by mentioning a previous video, you increase the session time, putting you in the good books of the YouTube algorithm. And as a bonus, you increase the views of your previous videos, making this a win-win scenario. To execute this properly, you want to mention a previous video in a way that stays relevant to what you are currently talking about. For example, earlier in the video, when I made reference to my previous YouTube tips video. This is so as not to seem completely obvious as to what you're trying to achieve. Number 4, at the end of the video, you also want to remind your viewers to like your video if they enjoyed. This is pretty self-explanatory, so I don't want to dwell too much into it, but trust me, it makes a huge difference. Number 5, you want to mention your other social media platforms. But more importantly, you want to give someone a reason to follow you on these other platforms. For example, we tell you to follow us on all our social media platforms because we provide loads of daily tips on how to grow your side hustle. You see, if you don't give the viewer an incentive, they will be like, why should I? when I'm already following hundreds of influencers who provide me with sufficient daily content. The reason this is so important is it lets you diversify out of YouTube so that you are not entirely dependent on it. And as I mentioned in my previous video, by growing on multiple platforms, you cross-promote your content, tricking the algorithm to think whatever you are talking about is viral to make you a literal content pumping machine. Number 6, last but not least, you want to ask the viewer to comment. You want to do this in 2 ways. A, by telling them to add points you may have forgotten or to clarify on anything they may have not completely understood. By this, you make the viewer feel comfortable and part of your community, making them far more likely to comment. B, by asking them a simple question with a limited number of answers. For example, an opinion between 2 options or a yes or no question. The reason for this is that people love to express their opinions, but they hate to think. By selecting questions of this style, you will kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Tip number 3, you want to engage with other channels in your niche. To do this, you want to watch similar videos in your niche and then leave a comment that further extends the conversation the creator is trying to start with his or her video, further elaborating on something they have already mentioned in their video. For example, for this video, you could leave an 11th tip that I did not mention in the video. This is vital for growing your channel for 2 reasons. Number 1, it gets the creator to start noticing you. So when you do eventually reach out to them, they are more likely to give you attention. And number 2, by engaging in the way I told you, you will be adding value to that video, which is likely going to show anyone who read it that you're educated in the topic of conversation, making them more likely to check out your channel. Now, you want to stand out from all the noise of annoying bots seeking self-promotions and forcing people to their channel. So avoid telling anyone to check out your channel and let them do so organically. A viewer who comes naturally this way is far more likely to become a fan of your brand in the long term. Tip number 4, you want to make use of all the features that YouTube provide you. The chapter feature lets users skip to the parts of the video they find interesting when they get bored with ease instead of skipping the rest of the video. Tags enable you to teach the algorithm what your content is about much faster. Cards let you promote your other content. I mean, YouTube gives you all these fabulous toys that are proven to help the growth of your channel. It would be simply foolish not to use them given they are free and only require minimal effort to implement. I mean, why go through all the trouble of creating a video, which trust me, I know is a lot of work, to simply compromise the potential reach at the last minute? If you are not using all the features available, answer one question: why not? And if the answer is because you are lazy, I'm sorry, but that is simply not good enough. Tip number 5. You want to bring your competitors into your ecosystem through collaborations as quickly as possible. For example, when I collabed with Mumo, as he's the only person who I found in my home country Kenya who was in my niche. By collabing with someone in your niche, not only do you get to learn something from them, which will drastically change the way you make your content and build your network, but you also tell the YouTube algorithm that your content is quite similar. So when either of you release any future content, it may be recommended to each other's audience, fast-tracking both of your growth exponentially. As many of you know by now, I'm a strong believer of the saying: if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. To do this tip, literally DM or email all the influencers whose content you find. You will be shocked to find that many of the time they will reply to you. I mean, Mubo didn't just come and approach me with 100 subscribers, you know. And for my bonus tip, I cannot stress this enough, but stop being a perfectionist. As Mumo said last week, he only likes each of his videos about 70%. And as a beginner creator, this number is likely to be far lower. You see, you would rather publish some bad videos in the beginning and continuously improve on your channel. Because you see, there's no such thing as a perfect video, as there is always something you can do to improve. Trust me, you can watch 100 videos on YouTube such as this one, but you will barely learn anything compared to when you press record. You need to learn what works and doesn't work for you and why. And the only way you can learn certain tips and tricks is by playing the game. Being a perfectionist is what kept me from producing content for so long. And seriously guys, you just gotta hit record and publish and do that again and again and again until you reach where you want. Now that I'm producing content almost daily, I have no idea what I was afraid of and wish I had started sooner. And I don't want y'all to feel the same. Remember, whatever you forget to mention in one video simply makes another great video. Before we end today's session, let me know down below which tip was the most helpful, and you can check out my other list of YouTube tips right now if you haven't done so already by clicking over here.